The snow-covered neighborhood of Maple Ridge always seemed idyllic during the holidays, with its neatly strung lights, glowing inflatables, and wreath-covered doors. But as dusk fell on Christmas Eve, a strange stillness crept through the cul-de-sac, as though the houses were holding their breath. Ellie, 10 years old and burdened with a curious mind, pressed her nose to the frosted glass of her bedroom window. Across the street, the Cleary House's festive lights had been turned off, leaving the property shrouded in unnatural darkness. For the past week, neighbors spoke in hushed murmurs about the Clearys, that they claimed to hear someone or something walking inside their attic at night. It was dismissed as squirrels or an overactive furnace, but now Ellie's heart raced as she stared out at the shadowy house. Beyond her reflection on the window pane, she swore she saw movement, a brief but deliberate flash of something tall through the Cleary's second-story window. Dinner passed with the usual clamor of holiday chatter and the scent of cinnamon candles filling the air. Ellie tried to focus on her plate, but her mind was tangled with fear and curiosity. She vaguely heard her father say something about heading to bed early, but she caught her mother's tone turn sharp, whispering not to perpetuate silly neighborhood stories. Kneeling by her window again, Ellie strained her eyes on the Cleary house, now nothing more than a black void in the night. Minutes turned into an hour while sleet clawed at the walls of the house. And while she battled her growing fatigue, she saw it. Clad in what looked like tattered, old-world garb, a figure stepped into view on the Cleary's driveway. Dripping wet and ghostly pale, the figure clutched a sack that squirmed unnaturally, as though something alive was caught inside. Ellie stumbled backward instinctively, her heart hammering endlessly as she swore she heard bells jingling faintly in the wind. Hours later, the silence of the house was broken when Ellie awoke suddenly to a distant scraping sound, faint yet deliberate. She hadn't imagined what she saw, she was sure now, and something was moving near the bottom floor of her own house. Her breath caught, recalling the weight of the strange figure in its sack. Quietly slipping out of her room with trembling hands, she peered down the stairwell where faint shadows danced in the dim light filtering through the living room garlands. At first it was just the sound of steps, soft as whispers. Then came the distinct metallic jingle. Head pounding, Ellie dared a step lower, gripping the railing when she saw a faint figure, taller than her father, impossibly thin, shifting just out of view. Sweating now, she fought the instinct to cry out and stumbled backwards, her heel catching one of her mother's forgotten ornaments. The soft chime it gave off echoed louder than it should have, and whatever was in the living room stopped moving entirely. The morning buzzed with forced cheer, stockings overflowing and torn wrapping paper littering the carpet. Ellie sat curled on the couch, pale and withdrawn, as the warmth of Christmas Day unfolded obliviously around her. She hadn't slept, not after what she'd seen once it turned toward her. Hollow eyes that dripped crimson, a face stretched into an unnatural approximation of a grin that split its angular cheeks. And then there had been the voice, a voice without tone, guttural yet wordless, calling only to her. Her parents' insistence it was just a dream barely kept the tremor in her hands at bay. When she finally left the couch to grab cocoa from the kitchen, she froze, her breath catching as her gaze landed on the chimney's hearth. Lying just below the firewood on the brick ledge was a tiny, hand-hewn wooden doll with crudely painted eyes and a grin that stretched too far. Attached to it was a small note written in jerky, scratching script. "Good children always see first.